Thanks for joining us on Tandem Radio for a very special segment, By Design, focused on helping you understand how God designed you so that you may be healthy and productive in fulfilling God's purposes in your life for many years to come. Now let's join our host, health expert and public speaker, Dr. James Prudian.
Welcome to the By Design radio program. My name is Dr. James Prudian of Prudian Healthcare and PrudianHealthcare.com, where health literacy is the key to longevity. And as long as God has us on this side of eternity, my show is designed to educate you and your families to feel better, function better, and live as many quality disease-free years as possible. The By Design program originated from many years of public speaking throughout New Jersey, and going into 2013, we're going to be moving to a national audience. This program takes a very literal position on foundational subject matters when it comes to healthcare. As I outlined in the last program, where we started our stress conversation as a foundational subject matter, this is part 2 as a continuation of last week's show, and I'm just going to continue this foundation until we finish stress management. For many years, I've been in and out of corporate America teaching audiences, not just what stress is, which is what today's show is about, but we're going to be getting into how we can temper the effects of stress in our daily activities so that we reduce the incidence of chronic illness. Now, some stress is unavoidable. Last week we talked about fight or flight. The fight or flight reflex, which is a God-given reflex, which is our ability to harness great amount of energy and power through the example I gave, like a lion walking in the room. My body goes into a different physiological state, a different energy state to get away from that lion. And that's a God-given reflex. It's built in all of us. I think every one of us, if we're over the age of 15 or 20, 25, we've had some sort of a fight or flight reaction in our life. And that reaction, which is creating all of that amazing energy, which comes from adrenaline, which is a hormone made by your adrenal gland, and you have 2 adrenal glands. They sit on top of your kidneys. They're about the size of walnuts. That adrenaline is not meant to be used for daily energy. So as we get up and we go about our routine, we have something else built inside of us called the Krebs cycle. And the Krebs cycle produces ATP, which is the energy that our cells desire. Now, I'm not going to go down that path, that road today. We're not going to really get into what the Krebs cycle is and making energy. Today, we're going to stay focused very much on stress. And our Bible verse is Luke 1:37, for with God, nothing is impossible. Because if we're going to make proactive changes in our physical, our nutritional, and our psychological health, we have to understand that nothing is impossible through God's help. And those changes are going to impact the way we feel and how we function. Because as I discussed in the last show, we're up against an epidemic of chronic illness that is costing us dearly. 55 to 70%, guys, of all of the claims, the costs are associated with behavior. What that means is 55 to 70% of all of our insurance claims sent into our insurance company are associated with our behavior and our lifestyle choices. So our behavior, a very large part of that, is how we're processing information psychologically. Now, men and women, we're very different. You guys may remember the Virginia Slims ad of the 1970s. You've come a long way, baby. I remember being a kid and seeing that advertisement in magazines, and it had a lot to do with women's rights and at that time, women's liberation. And I think we have to be very conscious of the fact that we all have the same rights, but we are built physiologically different. How we process stress, particularly from a hormonal perspective, and I'm going to get into this, so I just want you to keep that as a page holder as we speak today. As we get into stress, men and women process stress and have different hormonal outcomes of stress based upon our own unique physiology. So our own unique physiology teaches us that if we're in a stressful situation over a long period of time, I'm not talking about a lion walking in the room, but I'm talking about year in and year out. Why is it that women end up with more chronic stress than men do? Well, they're processing stress differently. So let's get into some black and white definitions. Anxiety is an abnormal or overwhelming sense of apprehension and fear, often marked by physiological signs like sweating and tension, increased pulse, okay? There is this sort of doubt of oneself to cope or have capacity to cope. That's anxiety. Depression is different, okay? This is marked by sadness, inactivity, difficulty in thinking and concentration. And there's a significant increase in, for instance, a decrease of appetite and time spent sleeping and feeling dejected. And I'm using these things because stress is a major component of driving anxiety and depression. So at the very end of the day, what is this thing called stress? Stress is this forcibly exerted influence or pressure, okay? This thing happening causing my biology, my biological reactions to react in an adverse way. So here is this physical or nutritional or psychological stress coming into my life. It's going to disturb my body's homeostasis. My body's homeostasis means balance. So in other words, these stimuli are coming into me. It's disrupting my homeostasis. And if over a period of time, these reactions sustain. We have this sort of sustained biological reaction to stress, then that's going to elicit a stress reaction. Okay, that's very, very important. So let me just stop there for a second. These adverse stimuli are coming into us. Physical, nutritional, psychological. Some of them are unavoidable. We have someone in our house that we're taking care of who's sick. An elderly parent, for instance. It requires work. It requires worry. We get that. Okay. We have other types of stress that we can control. These types of stresses are coming into us on over a long period of time. If our biology, okay, if we have an adverse reaction over a long period of time, then we're going to elicit a stress reaction. What is a stress reaction? A stress reaction begins up in your brain. Your brain is processing this data, and it's going through your pituitary gland, and the pituitary gland sends out information. And that information from your pituitary goes to places like your thyroid, your adrenal, your liver, and your reproductive organs. Okay, so this hormonal endocrine structure starts off in the brain because this adverse stimuli is being internalized by our biology. By then, the pituitary sends out an adverse information so that your body processes this stress and it hits the adrenal gland. The adrenal gland secretes adrenaline. Now, remember the fight or flight. Should we be using adrenaline for daily energy? The answer is no. But because our body is under stress, we have a God built-in mechanism. It's built, it's designed in us. You can't control it. It's going to do its thing. It's like your heart beating. You don't have to tell your heart to beat. You don't say beat, beat, beat. It does it on its own, right? So this internalization of stress and the reaction that your body gives by secreting extra adrenaline is the first of a series of hormones that are produced. Okay, so the pituitary gland sends out ACTH. This is another hormone that's secreted by your body. This ACTH secretion then stimulates the adrenal gland because it's under stress over a long period of time to make extra adrenaline. Now, when that happens, the adrenal gland also makes cortisol. Cortisol is another hormone that your body is secreting naturally. It is a stress hormone. Now, cortisol is the reason why, going back to the last show, I asked my menopausal, premenopausal women, why is it that women gain all this weight in their midsection, their belly, and their thighs around menopause? Well, it's because of a hormonal disruption. So that interruption of our normal hormonal rhythm, the estrogen drops off, it causes typically more cortisol to be released by the adrenal gland, and then we see this extra body weight go on in the midsection. It's a hormonal stress reaction. So stress reactions are happening in us naturally. Some of them are good, some of them are bad, and now this extra cortisol is floating around our bloodstream. Well, this process, if it was just fight or flight and it lasted 24 hours, man, our bodies are designed to deal with that, fixes it up, puts you to sleep for a little while. When you wake up, you go back to your life. But that's not what happens in our society. In our society, because we're on that treadmill of life, constantly running, watching that 60-inch TV set until 11 o'clock at night. We're on a treadmill. Many people are working out at night, which is not how our bodies are designed. ACTH is actually highest in the morning because we're designed to be farmers. We wake up in the morning, we're supposed to go out and use and utilize stress hormones throughout our day. But instead, what we do is many of us wake those stress hormones up at night. And that's not what we should be doing. We should not be on treadmills at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, running, causing more of a stress reaction in our body when we're designed to be winding down at the end of the night. So the physical symptoms of this adrenal-driven lifestyle, this adrenaline, which is just pumping out of us, low doses, it's day in and day out. 20s, we go to college, we're not sleeping well, we're not eating well, then we get married, we have children, we're in relationships, we have jobs, we're losing our jobs. All of those struggles of life, this little bit of adrenaline is causing chronic fatigue, weakness, insomnia, GI problems, low resistance, low sex drive, thin skin, dry skin, muscle pain, joint pain. All of these cravings for sweets, headaches, PMS, dizziness, hypoglycemia. This is the process of hormonal imbalance. We go to our doctors, our blood tests could be perfectly normal, and this process is happening. So the process of adrenal fatigue and burnout leads to depression, reduced memory, anxiety, inability to cope, loss of concentration, fogginess, irritability, mood disorders, indecision, because those stress hormones are also playing into our brain chemistry and the way we think. Okay, so that's a lot of data for 1 week, a lot of data. We want to remember this in a cycle. Fight or flight is what we're designed for. We're kicking out too much stress hormone on a daily basis out there, which is causing the host of anxiety, depression, and stress. We'll pick up next week as we get into part 3. You've been listening to By Design. I'm Dr. James Prudian. Thank you very much for listening to me this week. Do something for yourself this week. Do something healthy and really focus on living a wellness lifestyle. Be well and God bless you.
You've been listening to By Design with Dr. James Prudian of Prudian Healthcare. To learn more, visit us at tandemradio.com, that's tandemradio.com, or on Facebook. And don't forget to email us with your questions. We'd love to hear from you. In the meantime, hope you have a healthy week, and we look forward to you joining us next time for more fantastic insights from Dr. James Prudian on By Design, a special production of Tandem Radio.